Hello guys, my name is Anna and I'm from Ukraine, and I'm proud to be Ukrainian because I believe very important things are happening right now. After the start of Russian invasion, we demonstrate the world what bravery, strength and need for freedom is. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, and I try to make my daily vlogs useful and informative, and the world needs to know more about Ukraine. And today I want to speak about one topic that I have mentioned a little bit in my previous videos, but I think it deserves a separate vlog, and that is a number of prisoners and criminals in Russian armed forces, and that is huge. To begin with, I have to confess that I consider Russia to be a criminal state. Even before the invasion to Ukraine, they had lots of criminal decisions, and I think that if you have one president for more than 25 years or something, it definitely demonstrates that the regime is getting more totalitarian, authoritarian, and as a result, criminal. Criminal laws, criminal atmosphere, corruption, and this like macho style behavior is very characteristic to Soviet Union, to Russia. It comes from generation to generation. But it reached its peak during war in Ukraine, during Russian war in Ukraine, when they realized that they cannot take Ukraine. They cannot take it in 3 days, they cannot take it in 3 centuries, but they still continue killing their people on the territories of my beautiful country. They have decided they will need to recruit more people. And to get more people, they turned to prisons. What made me think of that? A short video that my friend sent to me about the recruitment procedure to the private army of Wagner, and then an article that I have read in local Ukrainian media, which states that lots of criminal people are sent by Russian government actually to temporarily occupy territories of Ukraine to create problems, conflicts, and to spread fear and terror on this lands. And that is a problem. That is a huge problem because Russia uses this below normality behavior everywhere, and they introduce lots and lots of prisoners to Russian army. Well, not exactly to the armed forces, but to the private Wagner army. What is once again characteristic of a Russian corrupt criminal regime is the fact that this Wagner group, Wagner army, is very active in Ukraine, was very active in Syria and other Russian conflicts and special operations, but they are not legitimate. They are not fixed in Russian legislation, and it's even difficult to persecute someone because there are no private armies in Russia, and they pretend that they perform some bodyguard functions or something else, but it's obvious even from the words of Putin, from the words of Prigozhin, who is the leader of that Wagner group, that they actually are military men. So anyway, this Wagner group is illegal, and what it does, it illegally invites Russian criminals and Russian prisoners to its, how do you call it, to that very army. Of course, it all happens with the blessing of Vladimir Putin, because otherwise prisoners would not receive the amnesty. So what happens? Lots of Wagner recruiters, including Prigozhin, who is a very charismatic from this Russian perspective criminal himself, visit different distant peripheral prisons in Russia, inviting recidivists, serial killers, people with extremely negative characteristics to join the army. In their announcements, they especially invite people who are not for the first time in prison, who are in prison for serious crimes or a series of crimes, and who had 15 years already and have 10 years in front of them. They offer these people a place in the army, a salary, and they promise to give them amnesty in half a year. So here is this first question, okay, how can they be outside prison fighting in Ukraine, in another country, when they are still serving their sentence? They do not receive amnesty. They are promised amnesty after they die in Ukraine, because hundreds and thousands of them die. I know that at the very beginning, this recruitment was pretty successful and many people from prisons wanted to join Wagner Group, but now the number is falling because they learn how many of them die. At the beginning, they promised like 15% will not return back, but the facts are different. Only close to Bakhmut, they had more than 1,000 prisoners who died fighting for, I don't know, what are they fighting for? So here we have a lot of important moral questions. Question number one, do these prisoners actually have a choice? Seems like they do, but they do not inform their families. Most of their families do not know they are fighting in Ukraine, and when they die, and they often die, they are buried secretly, or like no one knows what happened to them. And specifically what families receive is like information that he was released on Amnesty, decided to clean his consciousness and his past by protecting motherland in Ukraine. I don't know how they protect Russia in Ukraine, but he did not want to inform the family about that, and he's lost or something like that. So these people are actually this material, war material that they use. But I do understand that different people can get into prison, and some of them have stories that explain a lot. But what Russians are looking for, these are advanced, experienced criminals. And when you read the stories of men who were captured, for example, as prisoners of war here in Ukraine, you will be terrified, because many of them killed their mothers or grandmothers with like food, or their children when they were drunk, or set fire in the house to kill all the families. So these are people with awful criminal background, not like fraud, I don't know, bank robbery, something that we may like in a movie. These are people with extremely dangerous social behavior, maybe some serious mental issues. And they are invited to Ukraine to behave as animals, worse than animals. They actually become these orcs, but it looks like they have become orcs in Russia, and now they try to bring more violent, more brutal people who love killing, who enjoy that because they were killing their own relatives. So you can imagine what kind of crimes they commit in Ukraine. And we've seen that interviews already where soldiers of Wagner describe how they execute Ukrainian children. No normal soldier will agree to do it, even if it costs his own life, because come on, how can you live knowing that you've committed such crimes? So what is the number of these prisoners and criminals fighting in Ukraine? Well, at the beginning of December and November, it was close to 30,000. Some say today it is more than 50,000 of Wagner Group, and 40,000 of them are actually prisoners. No one can explain officially in Russia and their media how prisoners can fight on the territory of the other country when they are not yet under amnesty. Plus, in Russia, there is a specific kind of amnesty given by a president that goes beyond the law. Once again, very Russian. So they don't have to send their cases to court. Court is not involved, just the president gives this decision and they are released. But of course, this is a very unusual release, because they are sent to the battlefields of Ukraine, and they are sent to the group, to the army that is considered illegal too, because it does not have any status in Russia, but it is extremely active. What is also important, some prisoners already say no because they realize they will die. No one is going to protect them, no one is going to provide them, and they describe what Prigozhin says on this prison tours to deep, small, depressive Russian towns. So he says that this you will you know that you are recidivists, you're lost people, you will receive your amnesty, you will return back to your town or village, you will commit another crime, you will return back to prison, and I will come for you again, because this war is for long. This war is for more than 10 years. Russian army is losing, and the only hope is Wagner group, which he represents actually, and the whole world is against us. The Third World War has already started, and it is only our mission to win in this Ruski Mir war. And I think that once again it demonstrates this idea of Putin and his supporters to play long. This is bad for Ukraine, this is bad for the world, because with each day we lose people, we lose normality, and it grows more and more dangerous. And you know, I read a couple of stories of these soldiers who died heroically in Ukraine, returned back. Their biographies were changed, but if you look at the reasons for which they went to prison, you will be terrified, because in the majority of cases these are people who killed their mothers, their grandmothers, their children, and even among criminals and prisoners you can find normal people, but that's not what Russia is looking for. And even and inside Russia, they don't treat these people normally. They don't give them choice. They do not inform their families. And so they simply need this angry, hungry, I don't want to use the word animals, beasts, and use them as material to destroy Ukraine and its beautiful people. And that is super sad. Also, they develop a law that will forbid to disclose the criminal past of Russian soldiers, which demonstrates that they plan to send more and more recidivists to fight in Ukraine, and also to live on these occupied territories, spoiling lives of people who stayed there under occupation because they don't have a choice or they didn't have an opportunity, and spoiling this cultural and human background of these regions. What they did to Crimea when they brought hundreds and thousands of Russians to artificially Russify the villages and the cities of Crimea. So this is a planned politics, a combination of, I don't know, genocide, criminal behavior, and it demonstrates how dangerous they are, but at the same time that they are this below average normal human attitude to their own people, treating prisoners that way, to the world, to laws, and to everything. So for me, Russia is an illustration of what a criminal state is, and how a group of criminals and terrorists can turn the whole country into a prison. Because honestly, I think it tells a lot. I'm a Ukrainian. I live in a country that is heavily targeted by missiles. Anything can happen in any place of Ukraine. Russia on country is a safe place. Well, it's getting a little bit hotter, but still it's a safe place. But I would never agree to switch and to be Russian or to live in Russia. For me, this is like to get in hell. For me, Russia is a synonym of prison, is a synonym of hell, is a synonym of camp. And I don't feel hatred towards its population. I feel they are miserable, and I cannot feel sorry because they kill us daily. But it is closer to disgust and this total not understanding of how 140 million can choose and continue living like that. For Ukrainians, even if it costs our lives, we continue fighting for the vision of this normal future. And I'm really grateful that you are with us on this road. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe, because the world needs to know more about Ukraine. I'm super grateful to have you as my friends, and I invite you to our live stream. Maybe Sasha, my co-producer of Soviet Myths Debunked and Russian Crime series, will finally join us this Saturday at 8 p.m. Kyiv time. I will leave an announcement in our community tab, so you will be able to follow. Thank you once again for being with me, buying me coffees, becoming my patrons, and being my friends. I value that. You cannot even imagine how important you are in my life. Slava Ukraini!